What did they do at Incredicoaster? How long will Radiator Springs Racers be closed? And did I hear what I thought I heard about the Simba lot? It's the Fresh Baked Construction Update from the Disneyland Resort. Let's go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
We're going to take you around the entire park and update you on everything that's happening with construction and refurb projects. And we're going to start right here on the Pixar Pal Around, but not to look at Avengers Campus. We'll get to that in a minute. I just want to put eyes on the Incredicoaster vehicles moving around the track again. It's so great to see this, all that energy happening on the Incredicoaster, hearing the sounds of people screaming for their lives. It's one of my favorite things about DCA. It is back. Incredicoaster has been open since Friday. Today, when I filmed this, was the first day it was back. So it was very, welcoming to hear that again. The question is, people are wondering, why did they close it? What were they doing? We got this update from the Fresh Baked Street Team, courtesy of our app, the freshbakedpresents.com app. And it seems to corroborate what we were assuming, what we thought would be the case. They're they're installing a new e-stop system. This post from, I'm going to go ahead and take a shot at Redoncastu on the Fresh Baked Street Team. He was there on site watching them test vehicles. He said they were bringing the cars to a complete stop inside the tunnel, that first launch tunnel, and then pausing for about 10 seconds at the top of the big drop. And what we had said initially was that Disney was installing a new system that would allow them to sort of just press pause on the vehicles instead of shutting the whole thing down. Press pause, tell people to sit down, because that's what usually is happening is guests are trying to reach up, get out of their seat a little bit, and that usually causes a delay in the attraction. Typically in the past, they would have to shut the whole thing down. They would stop it, evac everybody off the track, cycle it for like 45 minutes, and then they could reopen it again. Now in this case, they can just pause it. As I understand it, as I've been told, they can just pause it and then start it up once more if they're stuck on that lift hill. This post from the street team suggests that is what they were doing. So in some cases, if let's say you're on a lift hill, that you can just stop there. In other cases, they would just let gravity work. Let's say you're stuck in a loop. They would turn all the brakes off, and the vehicles would just settle at the bottom of whatever hill or whatever that they were on. But what the benefit of this system is that you save all the time, obviously, of having to evac. But more importantly, it's not a closure. And when they actually have to close the attraction and evac everybody off the ride, all those guests that are on the ride get an MEP. Meanwhile, all the guests who had a lightning lane, an MEP is a multi-experience pass. Whenever something goes wrong, they issue you one of these, and you can use it as, it's basically a lightning lane for any equitable attraction in the park. So you got these guests who didn't have lightning lane, now they have one, plus the lightning lane guests who do have one and they still can't use it or haven't been able to use it. Now they're going to rush the attraction at the same time, and that's what causes those super huge spikes. And you see those posts on social media about how it takes 3 hours to get on Incredicoaster. That's because of multiple evacs on an attraction. On this day, everything looked to be running quite well. There was no breakdowns. We looked at the Theme Park IQ, which is an incredible site for all kinds of information. This is where we get our permit information. This is where we get wait times. This is where you can look for reservations, etc. Great site, Theme Park IQ. In any case, we saw this graph from yesterday. This is from Friday the 15th, and it looks pretty steady. There was just one little spike there at the morning, which is to be expected. It is typically the case whenever an attraction comes out of a refurb, there's a rush in the morning for people to get back on it. And so you were seeing a 50-minute wait there at 8:30. That is not typical. That is not standard. You'll see that the wait times went down quickly after that. But no stoppages at all day. That 8:19 or that one right there at about 8 o'clock. Well, actually, no, they don't shut Incredicoaster down now for World of Color. They used to, but they don't anymore. So that probably is a breakdown, but it was late in the night. So we're not seeing any sort of effect of a breakdown. We didn't get to test what a breakdown might, what the effect might have been in the future. I can show you. This is from, we just picked a random date. This is June 2nd. just prior to the attraction closing. And you can see where there was a breakdown at about 2:23 in the afternoon right there, right? So what happens typically is there's the breakdown and then there's a spike with the MEPs and the lightning lanes showing up, and then it goes back down after that. So once they process all those guests. But in any case, long story short, if this is correct, if what we had assumed was the case is correct, then this should be a great update for everyone. It's going to make everybody's experience on Incredicoaster better. And as I understand it, they're doing something similar or the same thing at Big Thunder, part of Big Thunder's closure, which is coming up. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But they're going to be doing hopefully the same thing at Big Thunder. And I cannot wait to be able to test this, in real time to see how this works, see if it's, I want to see it happen, but that's very difficult to find. So that's Incredicoaster. Let's move over to Radiator Springs Racers next, where that attraction is heading for a closure. Actually, it'll be closing by the time you watch this, or it'll be closed, I should say, by the time you watch this report. It closes on Monday. Up until just the other day, we didn't know for sure how long it was going to be. We assumed, my guess was about 4 weeks, and it looks like it's going to be closer to 5 as I look at the calendar now. Radiator Springs Racers is closing on 8/18 and will be closed until September 25th. The refurb calendar has now showing Radiator Springs Racers open on September 26th, which gives us about a month and 8 days, about 5 weeks, pushing 6. The good news is that neither, the Incredicoaster and Radiator Springs Racers, at no point will they be closed at the same time. Bad news is they're going to have closed Incredicoaster, and then as soon as that one's done, they're going to close Radiator Springs Racers. But all attractions need this at some point. Over regular intervals, you have to do these kinds of things in order to keep them safe and fresh and rideable. Every attraction has to go through some sort of maintenance period, no matter what. It doesn't matter what time of year. It has to be done, and you can't do it all at once. You can't do it all in February. Sometimes you have to do them in the middle of the year, like they are this year with Incredicoaster and Radiator Springs Racers. So look for Radiator Springs Racers to be open on September 6th. And by the way, while I was there, and this is going to be a running gag, as you'll see here in a minute, I couldn't believe it. This was at 12:30. So let's say I have no idea how to process that 35 minutes. What? I don't think I've ever seen 35 minutes at any time of the day, except for like the last hour or two, perhaps. But in the middle of the afternoon like this? Befuddled. That's the word. Befuddled. Super light crowd out here and standby, and it's set for 35 minutes. While we're on that subject, we walked by later. So look at Soarin', you guys. This is Soarin'. This is like 20 minutes later. There's nobody in that standby queue. There's nobody there. I've maintained for a while that Fridays are definitely less busy than people expect them to be. And I observe it all the time. I'm here every single Friday for construction. But this man, that's like completely, it is 12:30. Middle of the day on a Friday, completely empty standby queue. And I didn't even notice or mention it, but when we were checking out Mission Breakout, that rear queue was empty as well. The covered area, that was empty as well. I don't know what the wait time is. I forgot to check. Sometimes I get tunnel vision and I forget what I'm doing. But damn. And while we referenced Big Thunder earlier, that attraction is closing on September 2nd, as we have reported last week. There's no reopening date yet set for that. I do believe this is going to take longer than Incredicoaster did, because I think that's all they were doing with Incredicoaster was that E-stop thing. Big Thunder has a few different projects going on, so I expect this, or I've heard that it's going to take a few months to finish this. But hopefully, as I mentioned, one of the things they're working on is that new stop mechanism for the lift hills. And of course, while I was there, I noted a 15-minute standby wait time. There's nobody. Look at that free moving standby queue. There's nobody out there in the extended queues. 15 minutes posted is insanity. I mean, at the risk of a State of Disneyland report breaking out in the middle of this construction video, I'm kind of low-key wondering, this does not seem normal. It's 164 today, which is that's actually kind of on the lower end, if anything. It should be busier. It's August. Kids are out of school. No, kids are back in school, but all the Magic Keys are open. Are they? Yeah, just double checked. Imagine is eligible today, but not in Champ. Still, that should be plenty of guests to be. Man, I'm gonna have to go back and look at what this park looked like this time last year. Well, while we're here in the neighborhood, we'll go to New Orleans Square, where the film crew is still here, and they're going to be here, I think, for another week or so. But everywhere every day I'm here, they're in a different spot. Today I found them in New Orleans Square. They're still working on that Oswald the Lucky Rabbit show for Disney Plus. I don't know if it's a movie or a show or what, but they're filming in every land. They're using the entire park. Next door, Haunted Mansion is closed. They're installing the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay. That'll reopen on August 22nd. Peeking through the gates here a little bit, we can see that they brought out some of those decorations, and those pumpkins, they look to be different. I don't know if that's their permanent location or if they're just staging them there, but because they haven't gotten very far on the decorations. But there again, look at this. That feels different to me. We'll have to come back and see, but I feel like that's a different arrangement. But again, it could just be staging. Nothing else has been done. No decorations up on the mansion itself yet. No Jack, anywhere around the attraction. So, but that'll be done. When you see this on the 18th, it'll have reopened that Friday. Oh my God, Halloween is almost here. We are just 6 days from the beginning of the Halloween season. By the time we see the next construction report, Halloween will have begun at the Disneyland Resort. Incredible. All right, next door, I took a stop over there at Ray's Berets to check in on the grass, which it's holding on, you guys. It's actually, I feel like it's getting better each week. The grass is flourished. I feel like they may have even trimmed it a little bit on that left side. It's better on the left side of the sign than it is on the right. There's a few spots where it's kind of a little trampled down a little bit, but then in other places it's really thriving. It's growing well. So I feel like we're making progress on this. And then while we were there, obviously Tiana's, I checked on 30 minutes, you guys, 30 minutes at Tiana. So it's happening at both parks. It is 80 degrees out. Yeah, I don't know what the reason is. Why? So there's the backside of Ray's. It looks about as we left it last week. So I'm encouraged by how well this is going. As for Halloween throughout the rest of the park, nothing yet on Main Street. The question is, are they going to take down the 70th bunting and replace it with Halloween bunting? I'm inclined to think they will and replace it with Halloween. I'll show you why when we get back to DCA. But nothing here on Main Street. The place for the pumpkin, they've cleared that out. All that landscaping has been cleared out. It's just grass right now, and then the pumpkin will arrive any day now, I'm sure. But no other pumpkins anywhere on Main Street. Now, earlier in the intro, I teased some news about the Simba lot. We're going to get to that right after, if you could just wait a minute, for this little plug for our friends over at GetAwayToday. Bet you wish you were at Disneyland right now enjoying this darn near perfect afternoon at the Disneyland Resort. If you wish that you were here, well, you still could be. Contact our travel affiliate, GetAwayToday. They can set you up. They can get you here real quick. There's a link in the description for GetAwayToday. They are our preferred travel affiliate. They will set up all of those travel arrangements for you. Hi, guys. If you just want to get a ticket, they have you can refund. If you buy a ticket through GetAwayToday, did you know that you could get a refund if you wind up not being able to make it? If you buy it from Disney, that's not possible. I think you can reschedule it, get another date, but you can't get a refund. Just throwing that out there. But they'll set everything up for you. The tickets, the hotels, and all that. It's great. I love GetAwayToday. They are amazing. I consider them very good friends of the show. Use the link in the description, and I hope you guys have a great trip. That's the Simba lot parking for downtown Disney. Mostly it's actually cast member parking these days, but you can park here if you're stopping at downtown Disney as well. This is the future site of one of the locations for Disneyland Forward. And we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for them to do just about anything on this site, the Simba lot. I have heard, now this is just anecdotal, and I haven't been able to verify this with a second source at the moment. If any of you sources want to, give me a heads up, I'm happy to listen. But I have heard there's a chance that demo of this lot could begin in about a year. about a year from today, next summer, we could expect to see demo of the Simba lot, and that means they're getting ready to do something that is going to be Disneyland forward related. And it does reconcile with the permit that we talked about a few weeks ago, the one that Bricky had talked about in his video as well. There's a permit out there for them to demo part of, the trees and everything, and that space along Catella Avenue, behind the Incredicoaster. All those things are starting to reconcile together, and we could be seeing some movement. I don't know when we'll actually be able to visually spot this, but I'm hearing about a year from now that it's going to begin here at the Simba lot. And I don't have to tell you, that's exciting. While we're on the street, let's get out to Harbor Boulevard. I was too late on this day. I have to, when I get my footage of Avengers Infinity Defense, I have to go in the morning, and that view is unavailable to me after that. And I was too late on this day, so I could not get those shots. But I could see the crane. I could see the crane from everywhere, and through the window, not quite, from the usual viewing spot, but we can see there it is. There's Avengers Infinity Defense right there. It's like incredible how quickly they have put this frame up. I only mean that in terms of the context of how long it usually takes Disney to get things going. I believe that there is a significant push to get this thing done as quickly as possible. They have all hands on deck to build this thing, probably to get it ready by the time the new Avengers film comes out. I wonder if there's going to be any sort of synergy between those two. We're on Harbor now. This is the old entrance, back. Wow. Back in the day, that's how you used to enter. Anyway, you could see the building there through the trees a little bit. And while I was here, I could also see a crane bringing in some steel. And this always, there's a lot of steel, and there's already a lot of steel up there. But whenever I see this, it just makes me happy watching them build this. It really triggers something inside my soul about the construction of something as big and important as Avengers Infinity Defense. Someday, 2-3 years from now, we're going to be on Avengers Infinity Defense, and we're going to be going through some room. Some exciting thing is going to happen on the attraction. We're going to be enjoying ourselves. But I am going to remember that in that room that we're in, it's being held up, put together, supported by those two I-beams. I really love that I love that. That's why I do this. So that I can imagine and experience the full story of these attractions, not just, the actual ride itself, but what it took to build it. And now we're on the other side of those trees, and they're getting ready to, before we saw them lifting it, that's them placing it. It takes a long time, though. I can't, that's why I get shocked about how quickly they can do these things, because it takes forever just to bring in one single piece of steel. It takes forever. They just float there indefinitely. We never did actually get to see this thing land, although I wouldn't have been able to see it anyway because it was through those trees. Let's get into Buena Vista Street, then DCA next. There's a bat on Buena Vista Street, and you see the banners, those being Halloween decorations. And it's a little early, by the way. It's earlier than what we're seeing at Disneyland because Oogie Boogie Bash is starting before. The first night of Oogie Boogie Bash is prior to the actual official beginning of the Halloween season on August 22nd, a date that's still not here. But they do have the purple banners up. I want to note that it was 2 weeks ago that the 70th banners were still up on Buena Vista Street. And then, or no, I'm sorry, that was a month ago. And then, no, what day is this? That's on the 28th. And then when we did our last State of DCA report, there were no banners at all. And then they replaced them with the Halloween banner. So that's a sign, perhaps, that Disney's going to take down the 70th banners on Main Street and replace those with the Halloween bunting. With that, we'll get on the Pixar pal around to see what we can see backstage at Avengers Infinity Defense. And we can see this is that section that is near to Avengers Campus proper, and they are definitely, framing something, getting ready to build something, but all the vertical construction is happening at the rear of the property. There you can see, there's Avengers Infinity Defense. And then meanwhile, you can see where they're doing the restrooms and connecting Avengers Campus to Cars Land. They're still digging back there, still in some kind of dirt mode, but there's no activity back there. And then relative to our conversation with the Simba lot, which is just out of frame there in the back, in the top right, that's the Simba lot. There's going to be all kinds of relationships between what's happening there at the Simba lot and what's going to be happening with Coco here, because Coco is going to start building probably around that same time. Around the same time they're going to be demoing Simba is the same time they're going to be building Coco. So we're going to be looking for any sort of action here to see if there's, if we can spot the beginning of things. As for this week, I don't see a lot of action back there. Things look to be about as they were last week. I mean, I feel like there's maybe a little bit less stuff this week. We'll check again. We'll do a more thorough comparison of the state of things backstage next week. We can see, this is one thing I'm going to be looking for, through the Incredicoaster tracks, those two mobiles, I'm going to be looking for those to move. That's a sign. And then anything obviously happening backstage to the right towards that entrance. Let's get on the ground. Let's go check out that situation between Luigi's and Avengers Campus. As I mentioned, there was no action happening at the while we were filming, but you can see that the digger there is still backstage, so they're still working and they're still in dirt mode, but nothing really to observe. And there again, through the Luigi's traffic, you can see over that building that they're picking up a piece of steel there. How exciting! Steel is being brought in. While we're here in Cars Land, let's note, by the way, that most of the Halloween decorations have been installed. Cars Land always gets a very thorough overlay for the Halloween season, and most of it is installed. It's during the day, so it's not quite as interesting to look at. But yeah, we're missing a few things. The Baby Mater is still not a mummy, but everything else appears to be there. The posters. Sarge's Surplus Hut's got its pumpkins. The Cozy Cones have got their ghoulish overlay. And what's really cool is that even though you can't see it, most guests are not going to be able to see it. I had to really peek to find it. The Breaks Motel is still there inside the Cozy Cones in that window where they are now taking orders. You can't really see it anymore, but they did bring it back. There it is. There's the Breaks Motel. That whole overlay inside that building is still. They did it again. It's great. I would not have been shocked if they didn't bring that back. Flo's V8 Cafe has also not been dressed yet. Usually those spooky chains and the spider car. That has not arrived yet. Speaking of Flo's, here's some interesting permit. Well, I don't know, interesting. I'm happy to see this. There are 3 new permits revealed this week for new bottle filler stations. Plumbing and electrical for 2 drinking fountains and 1 drinking fountain bottle filler combo and pedestrian barrier. This is at Flo's V8 Cafe. So we're getting new drinking fountains, which is great. They're hard to find. They're hard to find at DCA, and that's actually a park that needs them more, in my opinion, than at Disneyland. But it's the water filler stations that are seriously lacking. I think there's just 2. I know there's one by Doctor Strange. And I think there's another one, but I can't remember where it is. But we're getting 3 of them. We're getting one here. We're getting one on Pixar Pier. It doesn't say where. Building 516. I'm not sure where that is. A drinking fountain at Standing Height and a bottle filler station. And then another one on Hollywood Boulevard. Absolutely great news for me. I drink a ton of water when I'm in the parks. And I especially like to be able to get it, from the filler stations as opposed to the drinking fountains. For whatever reason, my brain says it's better. So I'm super grateful. I mean, it is easier to fill them up for those stations as well. So I'm super grateful that they're doing this because I have to struggle to find water as I make my way through around the park. So this is great news. Loving that they did this. With that, we'll head around to the other side. We still got more to look at with respect to Avengers Infinity Defense. We're at Avengers Campus, peeking over the walls, and again, look at that. They've added a whole layer. Guys, the difference between this week and last week alone is very striking. This is a week ago when we were excited about the vertical steel, and we could see that there was that first layer and then a separation between the first floor and the second floor, and you can see that the construction workers are working there, and then they're going vertical again on that second layer. That was just a week ago. This week, we've got another roof Or I don't know. I don't think this is gonna be a third floor. They've got a roof there on top of that second layer, and they've put a roof over on that lower level to the left. So they've already created a sort of a two-tiered building here. I'm wondering though if it's gonna stay two-tiered because the concept art that they've got out there does not suggest that. Right? Am I crazy? That does not look like a two-tiered building. So we're going to have to, I'm not even sure where to place this. I'm not even sure what part of these buildings we're looking at this point. That's interesting. It does not reconcile what they're building with this and with the concept art that's out there on the walls right now. We'll go next door to Mission Breakout where we've got some good news. That's Bravo closing its doors right now. Some guests just got done seeing DCA from Mission Breakout in the Bravo elevator. That's been, intermittently open and closed for the past week or two. I feel like Bravo is pretty much done. They're still testing perhaps because you'll see in a little bit. I stood there for about 2 minutes. There goes Alpha. Alpha just opened. And then shortly after that, Charlie. So all three are operational at this point, which is great news for guests. But I do still think Charlie's going down. It could be that they're just cycling Bravo for a while before they close down Charlie to make sure that Bravo is running well. Redwood Creek Challenge has reopened from its closure. They're done installing the Villains Grove overlay, which is always a delight. If you can go into Redwood Creek today, it's open. You can also go while Oogie Boogie is happening. I should say on days that Oogie Boogie is happening during the day, the Redwood Creek is open, and you can kind of put eyes on some of the decorations that they have there. This is the Hunchback of Notre Dame section. There's the candles. That is for Maleficent and Sleeping Beauty. Notice, by the way, no water. There's still no water at Redwood Creek. Redwood Creek is now a ditch. Redwood Ditch. Okay, let's keep going. This is on the Alice in Wonderland section. There's the white roses. We're going to paint those red later. And then this is the Snow White section, and you can see the lights installed on the trees. This is such a delight. I love Villains Grove. It's the first thing I do every time I go to Oogie Boogie Bash. There's some speakers and for the sound, and there's going to be a fog emitter out there somewhere. So exciting. We'll get out to Downtown Disney. No movement on these ticketing kiosks that have been closed. There's been no action here for months now. They've been closed while they wait for the Portos thing to get worked out. Earl of Sandwich is still open down here. We're waiting for that to happen. We'll go through the rest of Downtown Disney. The concrete has been fixed out in front of Napa. Well, it could have been they were doing something like with electrical or something below grade. But whatever that was, those fences were there the other last week. They're gone now. Sunglass Icon they're actually, well, it's still closed, but not only is it still closed, they're down to the studs. They gutted that building back there for some purpose, but you can see studs there through the glass. Sephora looks to be finished. Well, at least the front half. The scrim is down at Sephora, but you can see that there's still some scrim way in the back. But they've got some pumpkins. That's great. Pumpkins at Sephora. Love it. There is a new scrim up next to Wetzel's Pretzels. Probably the same thing that they were doing at Napa Rose is my guess. There's Donald brewing something for the Halloween season. And then Tortilla Joe's, no action here, although the walls have changed. They've moved the walls around. They've actually shrunk them. Well, in some places they moved them into like the alley. The walls have moved into the alley a little bit, but in other places they have shrunk them. You can see that's where the walls were before, and now they have been pushed in a little bit. Interesting, but still no movement back there. We'll see again in a minute on the monorail. There is a ghost out in front of the Jazz Kitchen. Lego store is still open, but still going through a remodel. ESPN Zone is going through some things. I don't know if we alluded to this last week, but they can't make up their mind what they're doing. They finished that little facade piece there at that curved entrance, but they've also blown out all the windows, and it looks like they've taken some of that facade work off. This was finished. Where you see that the glass broken there, that facade work had been finished at one point, and they stripped it again. So I guess they can't. I'm not sure if they know what they're doing, or maybe they changed their mind and try to make it look pretty. They do have these new signs up on the walls for Lululemon. Now it's being revealed to guests walking by that Lululemon is coming, and they've also revealed that it's going to be opening in the winter. There you go. If you're wondering when it's going to reopen, in the winter. Earl's, we've actually got some signs here. We can't see much from the front, but it looks like they're getting ready to install some glass. That's dense glass. It looked like sheathing to me at first, but it says dense glass, so I'm going to assume that's what they're putting in there. And you can kind of see more of that. You can't see it through the lens, but you can with the naked eye. There's more of that dense glass sheathing looking stuff on the other side of that scrim. We mentioned a peek on the monorail. There is the Tortilla Joe's site. Nothing vertical yet. They're going to finish building Avengers Infinity Defense before they go vertical here at Tortilla Joe's. Caught the train on the way in from the monorail. That's pretty rare. It's often I see the monorail from the train, but I never see the train from the monorail because I'm usually not on this side. We also caught the cavalcade coming out from backstage. That's very exciting. And then we were hoping to see a little bit of what's going on at Storybook Land from the train, but you really got a second or two of the view here, and it's not particularly good. The scrim is still doing its job on the other side or on that hillside there, so we can't see anything from there. Edelweiss Snacks is still behind scrim and construction walls, but it is open. There's Storybook Land again. Nothing visual, nothing we can see. We can't even see anything poking out over the scrim. And then we'll take a quick look over at Casey Jr. Oh, there's something developing there. Okay, so this tells us that they're doing a lot more than just track, just train. This thing is getting a whole makeover. That is scaffolding around Cinderella Castle there, suggesting they're going to give that thing a little TLC, some paint and polish probably, but they're covering a lot of ground on this extended refurb of about 3 months or so for Storybook Land and Casey Jr. This thing is going to be beautiful by the time they're done. But until then, we're going to have to wait. By the way, they have fresh baked that window. That's the window that we would peek through a little bit to see if we can see the track. They have closed that little gap. Disney. Look, Disney, we don't miss. I'm sorry. You give us a look, we're going to take it. You know what I mean? But I appreciate you. Thank you. The gap has been closed. Okay. That is Disneyland and DCA. Let's take a look at the refurb calendar to catch you guys up. Starting with Star Tours, it's been closed for a little while. It's going to be closed for 2 months now, but we have a date. It's going to reopen on September 5th. Still no date for Casey Jr. or Storybook Land right now, so it's going to be at least until September 28th, probably longer. This is going to go into October for sure, perhaps even into November. Haunted Mansion, as we mentioned, will be reopening on August 22nd. Big Thunder closing on September 2nd. No known date to reopen, but again, I expect this is going to go into October, November is my guess. Mark Twain is closing on September 8th, reopening on September 12th. The Main Street Cinema is closing on September 8th for quite an extended refurb, reopening 18 days later on September 26th. That's a long time for the cinema. Tom Sawyer Island is going to close for 3 days. It's going to close on September 15th, reopen on the 18th. Dumbo, the Flying Element, will be closed for 2 days, closing on the 16th, reopening on the 18th. I don't know if that's related at all to what they're doing in Storybook Land. And then the Columbia, just like the Mark Twain, when the Mark Twain is done, about 10 days later, the Columbia is going to close on the 22nd, reopen on the 26th. And then the only closure we have at DCA coming up is Radiator Springs Racers. It's closed as of today when you watch this, and will schedule to be reopened on September 26th. There you go, guys. That is our construction and refurb update from the Disneyland Resort. Thank you so much for watching. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And fresh baked.